what is it with the Commanders and Dallas Cowboys going, oh, you are two of our best players, but we don't want to pay you? I'm more upset personally about the Washington Commanders and Terry McLaurin because think about this. Without Jamar Chase, the Cincinnati Bengals were nothing, even when they drafted Joe Burrow. Before the Minnesota Vikings drafted Justin Jefferson, they were not the top contender that many have viewed them to be in the past couple seasons. Wide receiver has become one of the more important positions. And it's very rare that you find a wide receiver who directly affects how good of a team you are. Terry McLaurin absolutely fits into that category. Look at how Washington took off once Jaden Daniels found that connection with Terry McLaurin last season. And I've talked about this. Once those two found it, Washington took off. I think they had like 6 comeback victories last season. If the Commanders do not pay Terry McLaurin and he's not there, they're not going to live up to the expectations that fans like us and media experts have laid out for them. You know, they went on this magic carpet ride and made it to the NFC Championship before losing to your Philadelphia Eagles. But still, wide receiver has become that important that you got guys like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson.
How about A.J. Brown?
Yes.
My Philadelphia Eagles would not be a perennial Super Bowl contender the last 2 out of the last 3 years without number 11. That's when Jalen Hurts took off into an elite quarterback, in my opinion.
So you understand my overall point then?
Absolutely. Now, I do think for some teams are more wide receiver dependent than others. Some quarterbacks are more wide receiver dependent than others. Like we've seen Josh Allen, right? They get rid of their 2 receivers, and Amari Cooper just freaking retired because no one wanted to sign him, and they didn't miss a beat. Where some offenses, like you mentioned, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Minnesota, they do need wide receivers. And we said last week when we talked about this with Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin, all trade requests and all contract negotiations are not the same. These two are completely different. And in the Commanders' case, we both agreed last week that Jaden Daniels is on a rookie contract. They just traded for Deebo Samuel, who some people view is sort of entering the downside of his career, even at 30, because he plays like a running back and he takes so many hits. And it's like Terry McLaurin, outside of Jaden Daniels, to me, is easily your second best offensive player. And I agree with you that I don't know if it would have a dramatic effect on the Commanders, but does it take a win or 2 off the table? I believe it would. And I also believe that that will be the difference between whether they win the division or whether they even make the playoffs, because the NFC this year is not, the top is good, the bottom is low, the way it has been the last few years. There's a lot of good teams now all of a sudden in the NFC with young quarterbacks.
So I have to disagree with you. If they don't have Terry McLaurin, I do think it would have a dramatic impact.
So let me ask you this. For the sake of argument, I believe their over-under win total is at 9.5. For the sake of argument, let's say with McLaurin, their floor is 10 wins. How far do you think without McLaurin they drop? 7? 6?
Yeah, at least.
Wow. So you think he's that important?
Yes, I do. I really do. Because as I said, they had 6 comeback victories last season. Granted, a lot of that is because of Jaden Daniels, but it's also because of that connection that you saw really get established between Jaden and Terry McLaurin. I know that they have other weapons like McCaffrey, Brian Robinson, Noah Brown, but their offense is not the same without Terry McLaurin. And this guy has been in Washington through all of the bad times with with Dan Snyder and all the other quarterbacks and head coaches and all that, and you're not willing to pay him?
That to me is the weird part about it, because I would kind of get it if it was the old regime, but this is the new regime. You're supposed to get off to a good foot with your players, pay your guys. You just made the NFC Championship. I get it. There's a little fear factor of, oh, he's 30. Maybe it's not going to be worth the money in a couple years. The good general managers and the good teams figure out the salary cap and they move off players. They give players extensions and then they move off them 1 year later. So to me, I think what's going to end up happening here is McLaurin's going to come back probably on a reworked 1 year deal. I don't think they're going to give him a contract extension, and they're going to see how it plays out this year. And if he does ball out, it gives him an opportunity to next year test the open market.
If I'm the Commanders, I don't want to play with fire like that. But hey, America's team clearly wants to play with fire. I don't get what Jerry Jones is doing.
Let me start with this one, because I disagree with you completely. I am actually pro Jerry on this, and it's not me being an Eagles fan and being a Cowboy homer. Josh, I'm going to be honest with you. I'll give you a little spoiler here. I think the Cowboys are going to be bad with or without Micah Parsons. I think they're a bad football team with a lot of holes and a terrible head coach who showed up the other day at training camp wearing a visor backwards. Yeah, not the greatest look for a first-time head coach. If I'm the Cowboys, you know what I do? I try to find a team like the Patriots that have a young quarterback on a cheap rookie deal, and I think you try to move and trade Micah Parsons. Just like I advocated for the Browns to do with Myles Garrett this past offseason. Now, they ended up paying Myles Garrett $40 million a year. If they do sign Micah Parsons, he's going to get $40, $41, $42, $43 million a year. Last week, we went through and we talked about, Jalen Carter, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Aiden Hutchinson. Some people want to put Jared Verse from the Rams potentially in that conversation of one of the best pass rushers in the league. Micah has not shown up in the playoffs. And again, I get he's a phenomenal player. But for the Cowboys, they're already cap-strapped with Dak. That was a terrible contract they gave out. They hindered themselves by giving out Ezekiel Elliott the big money, years back in 2019, 2020, whatever it is. My best guess is, like I said last week, Jerry's playing pawn and they're going to do Cowboys things and they're going to give Micah $41 million a year. But I wouldn't. I would actually try to trade him.
I see what you're saying, but we've seen this with the Cowboys. They gave Dak his contract extension literally hours before kickoff against the Browns last season.
And again, I said it last week. It's what Jerry's going to do with Micah. You want to bet on the opening day of the season when the Philadelphia Eagles are raising their Super Bowl banner that Jerry Jones wants to be in the headlines? How would you want to bet that day Micah Parsons announces he signed an extension with the Cowboys?
It would not surprise me. And they came right down to the wire with giving CeeDee Lamb the extension. This is just the Cowboys' way. It is honestly frustrating to see how the Cowboys handle themselves. I don't get it. I laugh at it, honestly. But I also I hate to say I feel bad for them, but I kind of do. You're supposed to be, the team everybody looks at and goes, I want to be that. And yet they're not.
Well, if you care about branding, if you care about marketing, that's what they are. They are what the Lakers have been the past 7 years until they traded for Luka Doncic.
Yeah. And there's no Luka growing on trees for them to trade for.
They are a bigger brand than a football team at that point, which to my point is, again, I don't care if they got Micah or not. I see no way in hell the Cowboys are a playoff team this year. I'll tell you that right now.
To that point, I can see Carolina jumping them and stealing a wild card spot.
I think they're at the same level.